The city of Tulsa is celebrating its 125th birthday today.
News on 6's Caitlin Deggs tells us about a new exhibit at the Historical Society of Tulsa that's going to honor the city's history.
The Tulsa Historical Society says in the past 125 years, there's been a lot of changes, from the architecture to the number of people who live here. But what hasn't changed is the spirit of Tulsa. Sophia Hurd is the curator of the Constructing Tulsa exhibit. As a native Tulsan, she's passionate about the city's history.
I grew up in Tulsa. My mom and my grandfather grew up in Tulsa, so I have deep roots in the city, and just driving around and seeing where my mom grew up and then where my grandfather grew up, and just hearing their stories about how the city has changed over the years.
The exhibit will show pictures, maps, and even an old post office box from the 125 years of Tulsa's history. One of Sophia's favorite parts is seeing all the people who contributed something to building the city.
Something that I just wasn't expecting but absolutely fell in love with searching through these photos is the construction workers. There's so many photos of these construction workers just doing their jobs. They had no idea that their photo would end up in a museum.
The executive director of the Historical Society says when Tulsa was incorporated back on January 18, 1898, it was a much different place.
Tulsa was dirt streets, clapboard buildings. Very little of it was masonry. In fact, we only had one masonry building at the time.
Sophia says even though she's seen the city change plenty in her time, the values of Tulsans have always been the same.
So it's just really interesting to see things growing and changing, but there's a kernel that always stays the same.
And this exhibit, which is at the Tulsa Historical Society and Museum near 21st and Peoria, will open tomorrow. In Tulsa, Caitlin Deggs, Oklahoma's Own, News on 6.